Okay, the appointed hour having arrived, the Water Quality Management Committee Thursday, June 20th meeting will come to order. We have several agenda items here, and with the committee's permission, I'd like to hold on number 1 for a little bit, because somebody who will be involved in 2 and particularly 3 is here with us. Trish Favuli, the acting assessor for the town of Falmouth. And item 3 is something that the acting assessor will have some say in the matter. So we want to make sure that what we're talking about is something that she knows about and that she can inform us on that subject. So with the committee's permission, I'll jump briefly over to number 2, which is a discussion on potential articles for the fall 2013 town meeting. We have committed ourselves to the selectmen and to others that we would produce a product on a number of topics, including a special act that would lower the cost of betterments if the town chooses to have betterments to homeowners. An exemption for eco toilet installations if George Heufelder's studies prove what many of us think is going to be the case, that they are an effective nitrogen removal mechanism. What was the other 2 here?
The flow neutral bylaw.
The flow neutral bylaw, which we all have been considering and talking about for a while, but it has to be ginned up. And the betterment percentage, which is something we can talk about, but only the selectmen can decide on, if there's going to be one and what the percentage is. But we can at least inform ourselves and the public what the options are, and hear from all the folks who have in the past discussed economic justice, and get that on the town's agenda as well as our own. So those 4 things are going to be taken up in the November town meeting, which means we've got to get started on them now, because by September the warrant is being put together, and we want to have at least be well on our way to having a product in those 4 categories. The first one, and the one Trish is, we thank you very much for coming. Trish has agreed to come and get ourselves involved with, is a special act which would have, at least what we talked about in the past, 4 potential provisions, all of which are designed to make a betterment, if there is going to be a betterment, easier on the people who have to pay it. The provisions that we talked about in the past were equal payments, 2.5% interest, amortization period longer than 20 years, and possibly basing it on the assessed value of the property rather than on road frontage or some other category. So those are what we have talked about in the past. We're open to new things. We're open to more information. We're open to old things. Trish was on the review committee with some of us, including John, which this is definitely out of order, but John Waterbury is our new member, probably the only one who was elected by unanimous vote of the Board of Selectmen Monday night, and we'll be happy to have you on board at the next meeting.
Looking forward to it.
But meanwhile, the special act, it has been on the town's agenda, and it was on the special, on the review committee's agenda, and it should be on ours. So, do we want to kind of lay out where we were before in the review committee, and take it from there, or what do you want to do?
Well, I think, Trish, I'm interested in the particular pieces of what's just been outlined as sort of the menu of work that we have to do over the next couple of months. Which particular pieces where your department would clearly need to interface?
I would interface in...
Oh, yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You know from Thursday nights that you have to get in front of the microphone.
Right.
I think anything that you're gonna be using out of the assessor's database has to involve the office, whether you're gonna use values, or Jerry had mentioned bedroom count at one time. Which, the bedroom count, P-Town does bedroom count, and that's how they assess. It's very, very time consuming. At the moment, we don't have adequate staff. If you start using a bedroom count scenario, and we have to start going out and do inspections. We just don't have the staff.
Okay.
There's many properties that we've not been in the last 8 to 10 years, or required every 10 years to be in them, but there's situations where we haven't been, and there's people that we may be assessing for 3 bedrooms, which they may have 4 or 5 bedrooms that they've converted other rooms over to, so that one I'm a little cautious on, but the assessment value, I have no problem getting involved with that aspect of it. I brought, just if anybody has any interest, I didn't bring copies for everybody, but I brought a couple copies of the Betterment Act that you might want to look through. It might help you understand the process. But we'd be willing to, work with you on any of the aspects of the betterments.
Okay.
I'm also on the legislative committee for the Board of Assessors for all of Massachusetts. I represent Barnstable County. And as Eric will agree, any type of legislation takes a long time to get through. So it's something that you want to start sooner than later.
Right.
We've got legislation pending that we've been working on for the last 2 years, and it's just now starting to get some movement. So if you're looking to do something along those lines, you may want to start working on that right away.
Right.
That's why we're here, that's why you're here.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Whatever we do, we're shooting for the November town meeting so that it'll be ready for the legislature in January.
A couple of other things that came to mind, and Jerry's popped in a couple of times to talk to me about the whole process with the betterments. You've got some questionable lots, whether or not they're buildable or not. On the New Silver project, we ended up abating, I think we ended up abating 8 betterments at $27,000 a piece, which the town ultimately loses that money because that was part of the project. One of the recommendations that I would like to make to you is that you retain counsel to write letters of buildability to the building commissioner and apply for those, so that you know going in that you have 10 lots that definitely are unbuildable, that you will not better.
Well, Annie, that was just a suggestion.
Well, yeah, 10, whatever. I don't know what the amount is because I haven't seen your total counts, but if you don't do that, you're gonna end up being in a situation like New Silver was and abating them. They're unbuildable. We can't, by law, we can't better those properties. So it's something that should be done ahead of time.
Okay. The number of lots that are not built on is very small, and 10 is a close number.
Okay.
So it wouldn't take too much to identify those specific ones and get a sense from the building department as to whether
Yeah.
someone could.
If the assessors have them coded as buildable lots, would be 130.
Okay,
Assessors
that's another way.
assess everything as buildable until it's determined by the building commissioner that it's unbuildable. So you may have 10 buildable lots, which in fact there may be only 5 of them that are buildable. That's why I'm suggesting that you do the letters of buildability on that. I think Cia's familiar
Okay,
with that.
letters of buildability.
You have
is
to
what you're
apply, there's a process, there's a form that, a packet that is filled out, and you've got to prove to the building commissioner when the lots were designed, when they were subdivided, contiguous ownership of the abutting lots. There's a whole process to go through. And the reason I recommend counsel on it is there's a couple of zoning consultants and a couple attorneys that do that on a regular basis and present it. If the building commissioner at some point in time deems them to be unbuildable, there is an appeal process that the owners can go to the zoning board on. So it can become a complicated situation, so it makes sense to do it ahead of time. Okay.
Don't you find that an owner, if you assess it as buildable and tax it as buildable, if it isn't buildable, doesn't he come in and tell you that? Or
No.
Really? He'd rather pay the tax on a higher tax?
Yeah,
Interesting.
there's a couple lots in New Silver that even though prior to the project starting, a certified mail went out to them and said, we're gonna be starting the betterment process for this project, please check your buildability on your lots. And they left them as is, and they've been paying as buildable lots. One of them has actually been determined to be unbuildable, and they're way beyond their 6 months appeal process to get it abated.
Mm.
So some people just pay it as a matter of paying it.
Sure.
The other thing that we've done since the new silver betterment went through was in 2010, the assessor's office wrote an article for town meeting to allow seniors to apply for a deferral on their betterment. So that's been done. That was done, it was a unanimous vote at town meeting.
Seniors, what age and what income?
Seniors 65 and over, and their assets have to be under $40,000. There's no income criteria on it.
And that asset includes the house?
No,
No.
it does not include the
And
house.
I think that's an important point.
Does
Okay,
not include the house, any
Okay.
other assets, stocks, bonds.
okay, assets under 40,000.
Is that something town meeting passed? And
2010,
and was it,
Article 43, I believe.
was it a state act that we had to accept, or was it just our own?
We had to take it as a local option.
Okay, so it's a state statute
It's a
that we
state
have accepted, so we don't have to revisit
It's
that.
already done.
That's good.
What does
Great.
deferral mean?
Okay, a deferral is you go into an agreement with the town to defer it would be a betterment in this situation. You would defer it until you sold the house or until you passed.
And then it's all paid
That's
back?
paid back to the town with interest.
And the interest rate?
The interest,
Tell you what, they gotta know.
the interest rate is 8%. It goes to 16% upon demise.
Well, if you're dead, you don't care.
Right.
Your heirs might be.
Kids you do.
Well, then you shouldn't have deferred it.
You wouldn't defer it if you thought it that way, but for
It's
many
law.
seniors, you can do it with your real estate tax. For many seniors, it allows them to stay in their home.
Right.
If they're deferring, I'm just closing out a deferral right now, and she's been able to stay in her home for 18 years
Oh,
by deferring her taxes, and that gave her an extra $4,000 to $6,000 over the course of the 18 years.
At 8%.
8% simple interest?
Mhm.
Wow.
It's their decision, quite honestly.
It's right, it's
Yeah. No, it's a good option to have
it's a
out
good
there.
option to have, and it's a good option to have in a situation like this, too.
High interest rate.
Right. That brings us to the one of these other points, which is that was in the draft bill that we looked at in the past, which is to set the rate for the betterment interest at 2.5%.
Correct.
The state law currently says 5, or 2 plus whatever the town's
2 plus
paying,
whatever the town's
which would
paying.
be more than 5 probably.
Oh.
So if you set it at 2.5, you would have to go to the legislature for permission to do that, but you would also be providing the homeowners with a better rate than the state would give them otherwise.
That 8% was probably set in years when that was a reasonable interest, and it wasn't linked to one of these
That's true.
international
Right.
indices.
Correct.
Yeah, right.
Right.
And I don't know, I mean, probably Matt and Eric would have a better answer on that. I don't know if that's something that you may be able to, if you're gonna go and ask for special legislation to go up to 30 years, if that's something that you might add into that.
Absolutely.
That you do a lower interest rate on it
Right.
for both when they're with us and when they're not, so
Sure.
that it would be more attractive to people.
Mhm. No, that's
Most of the objections that we have from our older folks when I suggest with many of our older folks that they defer their taxes, it allows them to stay in their home, they don't wanna sell their home. Most of them have an aversion to the fact that a lien was on their property.
Yes.
I've paid my house off, I'm proud, I don't have a mortgage on my home, I don't owe anybody, but now I'm gonna have a lien. So that is something that has to really, really be explained, and that takes some
Mhm.
time for them.
Of course, the betterment's a lien too, technically.
It will be a lien,
I
exactly.
mean,
It's the only way we're gonna get our money.
sure.
And-
Yeah, Steve.
This is only, on the email you sent out with the tables for 2.5% interest.
Right.
That has nothing to do with the 0% or 2%,
Nope.
right?
No,
Completely arbitrarily different.
right. That would be the interest that the homeowner, if they were betterment, would pay on the amount that was due on the betterment.
And you're not concerned that somebody's going to say, hey, the town's only paying 0 or 2% and you're passing 2.5% on to me.
You have to be
If
careful
most
of that,
people
because
won't
in
notice
New Silver Beach, where it was a 0% loan, we actually went back to calculate that the town had incurred cost on things other than the SRF loan. So that it was 2%, I think, above the cost of borrowing, which it's not a lot, but it's more than the 0%.
And the other point is that if there is a betterment, and I'm just going to take an arbitrary 50-50%, the town is still paying the other
Right,
half
right.
100%. So, so the betterment is in no way, the town
Right, you're
isn't
right.
making a profit.
And the town
That's for
is incurring other expenses too.
Lots of other
Right.
expenses, yeah.
In the absence of making this kind of a change, it would be 5 or 6 or 7. It would be much more
Well,
if
that's-
we just had to follow the existing state law.
Right.
Just funny, I mean, I think also it could be the same rate of, that we borrow at, that say, tell people, look, we get 0% money or 2% money, whatever it is, but then in the sewer bill, there'd be an administrative cost. I mean, I don't know if that's possible as a way of saying, going, dealing with your issue. And
Well,
it
I
could
don't
be-
think my issue is much of an issue.
Okay, but it could be tied to water use, and therefore that might will help reduce water use, to help conserve water. So that, I don't know how much flexibility we have if we go for special legislation, whether we wanna say, look, we're gonna give you what we, the same rate we get, in the sewer bill, though there are administrative costs, and there are other costs, operating costs and other things. So it might be that, to make it more palatable in some ways, and then also to encourage water conservation, it might be a way to think about.
Water conservation will be quickly understood when they start paying 2 to 3 times more for sewer for every gallon of water that goes through their water meter. Outside showers, you name it.
Irrigation.
Irrigation would be a
It
big
will
one.
be quickly understood that you
Yeah.
want to go to conservation, because I think it's now
Well,
2
water-
versus $6 per 100 cubic foot.
Right, with the water filtration plant, we may also see.
That's a different subject which we shouldn't get into at this meeting on the
No,
water
I mean,
filtration.
there could be compounding effects as we move ahead.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to comment on the equal payments, just so that everybody understands the concept. When you pay your mortgage, you pay an equal payment, of which a portion is the principal and the other portion is the interest. But in terms of a family budget, you're able, that every month you're paying a certain amount. Whereas as it is now under the law, when we borrow money, and you are then paying a descending amount, which sort of front loads your costs, and then at the end of 20 years or 30 years, it's lower. So by asking in the special legislation to have equal payments across whatever period of time we decide, you again make it more manageable from a homeowner's budgeting point of view.
So I didn't realize that betterments were always set up for declining payments.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Part of the thing is, every 6 to 7 years, some of these things are paid off, and it's not because we don't want to defer the betterment. People that loan the money say, if you want to pass on this property, you pay it off. When people pay off their betterments early, that's a benefit to the town. So there's always this balancing act. And if it's 7, I don't know if 7 years used to be a rule of thumb.
It's on average,
Yes.
that would probably be pretty close, between 7 and 10 years, where people are turning over their properties. That's the average. Right now, currently on the Cape, there's only one bank that will allow the betterment to be assumed by the buyer.
Oh, okay.
All banks require it to be paid in full on closing. The town does not require it to be paid. The new buyer can assume it. We stay in first position with the lien, and that's where the banks are concerned. So
Yeah.
that's another issue with the betterments, is they have to be paid in order to get financing, unless you go with this one particular bank.
Right, if you want to sell your house, you have to pay it off right then.
Yeah.
And according, from the research that actually Sia did a bit ago, it seems that this arrangement could be also considered for IA systems. Because of Chapter 111, Section 128, 127B.5 or something, there is it includes betterments for upgrades, repairs, or replacements of septic systems.
Sure.
And it may be that we could, if there are areas where these things, as they come in, beyond the demonstration project where we have the incentive, this could be also possibly be applied as allowed under state law. So I think we could.
That's if the town pays for it.
Yes, right.
But typically on these independent systems, so
Well, it
far,
depends if someone's
the
septic.
property owners are not paying for their septic system.
I know if someone's cesspool fails and they want to put in a denitrifying system because they're way down the line or they're on the water, but they're not in a central plan as we move ahead, it could be applied. They could get a loan. The town could help.
Well,
with
back
the
up.
process, yeah.
It has to be public, through the SRF program, that's entirely eligible. If myself, I have a a septic tank. If I put in a new septic tank, I own it. It's not managed by the town. I put it in myself. I don't know how, there's no betterment on me because it's my own property.
There is a betterment program in place through the county.
Through the
Yes.
county,
Through-
Yes.
Right,
through the
a
county.
loan program.
Right.
a loan
But
program.
they're not loan program.
Yeah, you know about
Right.
It's a loan program,
It's a loan program.
not a betterment.
But we
Yes,
might
it
be
is
able
a
to.
Oh, is it?
It is a
Okay,
betterment.
Well, it's a
right.
betterment in the sense that you gotta pay the county back, and they've got to lien until they get their money.
Correct.
But we might be able to give a better deal, basically.
Hardly.
And I don't know what the county's deal is.
2%.
Two
Well,
or
it's
zero?
But it comes
Well,
out of
they-
SRF money.
Actually, Matt may know.
It's
Yeah.
a community septic management program, and all the towns gave that responsibility to the county probably 10 years ago. So, but we all retain that ability to manage it ourselves. The interesting things about it is everything qualifies, composting toilets, the denitrifying septic systems.
Connecting to the sewer qualifies.
Yes.
I think it does. The state gives us 0% for, I think there might be some qualifications for that, but, we usually get, Westport just went into it. And we get I'm pretty sure it's 0% money. We charge 2% just to cover the cost of operating. And that's expected. It's still a very good.
And I think that money is coming out of the SRF loan program.
The
That's why
first couple of years, we get the administration money.
right. I'm in the basic funding corpus for being able to give loans for on-site systems. We should check with George, from what I understand.
Yeah.
That is an allocation
Oh,
of
yeah.
SRF money.
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay, all
Oh,
right.
it
All right,
is.
we're
It's
getting
definitely
far afield
SRF
here.
money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we stopped taking them, I'm gonna say 7 years ago.
Yeah,
We
that sounds right.
don't maintain them anymore. We have the ones that we had in place 7 years ago, we maintain those. But from that point on, anybody that wanted to do that program had to go directly to Kendall Ayers at the county level.
Right. The question I have, and maybe you can help with this one, if we decided that, we're going to encourage composting toilets or urine diverting toilets, is it possible for us to to loan that money to citizens through a betterment process?
I'd have to check and see with town council on that.
The key issue, as Jerry brought it up, is that, if the homeowner owns it, if it's on his property.
I think it comes into who controls, maybe you don't have to own it. And the other thing is, for betterment comes from a capital project, so we're gonna have to, I think it's a capital project, that we're recouping capital money through a betterment. So I don't know whether we have to get in front with bond council, or we could be our own bank on this,
And you certainly could do that,
be our own bank.
be your own bank.
Yeah, the town could set up its own loan program.
To provide that incentive, or
Right. and it wouldn't be a betterment, but it would be a loan.
Yeah, and we could run it the same way that
You'd have to run it,
county runs.
yeah, right, like the county does or set it up and run it as a betterment.
And
Or
their
what's
liens,
county
they put
budget?
liens on the house anyway.
Absolutely, the
Yeah.
county puts.
We could let the county run it for us, for a fee.
There you go. Ron?
It just slipped my mind for a moment, but I'll be back in a moment.
Okay.
If,
Yeah, Steve?
if the town sets up a loan bank, if you set up a bank, you have to start out with a lot of money, right? Because people aren't making deposits. There's no deposits
Not
out
in
of this
that bank.
bank. Or at least not that kind of deposit. And does the town, do the numbers come out reasonably? I mean, I didn't think of this more
Well,
than
it-
30 seconds ago, but you,
I think what you do is you get the money from SRF program. It's the State Revolving Loan Program, which is funded, federally funded.
oh, okay, so we'd
So-
just be administering it, sort of.
Yeah, so we would get either a 0%, I'm pretty sure we get a 0% loan and from the state, and then we would put it out there, give it away at 2%.
Because we'd be being paid back, but we'd have to make
And
all
then
the
we use-
upfront payments right away.
Well, right, but it works out. It does work out for the towns. It's a lot of towns on the south coast do it on their own without county help.
Do you know of towns particularly? I mean.
Well, Westport,
Westport.
Dartmouth,
Uh-huh.
I think Mattapoisett, and a lot of the interior ones too, Middletown, Lakeville, I believe.
Yeah, if you could get us some more information on that, that would be really good to know
I've
from,
got-
from somebody. You probably have
Booklet
some.
on it, yeah. You
Yeah.
want that?
If
I-
we could-
We're gonna need
Yeah,
it.
I think at this
There's
point,
a website too that,
we're,
Oh,
you know,
okay,
you
just
know
a
who
reference.
does it is Pam Truesdale,
Oh, well.
is the manager of the program.
Oh, we know.
Oh.
We know Pam.
well,
Yeah.
She'll be happy to come down.
well,
come here and
and
brief
we may need her to.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's some research that needs to be done here.
Okay. So meanwhile, back at,
No,
back,
I
oh,
did recall
Ron
now
has,
that
Ron
the
has
brain come
recalled.
back. No, if we pass the legislation for 2.5%, for example, and the town ends up getting a loan for, I mean, the cost to the town is 4%, then the town overall will make up the difference for the homes that are under the plan.
Right.
Okay.
Right, somebody has to if it's a 4%, and you're
Or
right.
whatever, I mean, the
Right.
real estate market.
Anything
is
more than
starting to
2.5.
move, and-
I mean, we could just say 2.5% above our cost of borrowing. If we get a 0% loan, it's 2.5. If we get a 2% loan,
Well, the idea was to give the town some flexibility. I mean, right
Okay.
now, under state law, you can do 2% above your own cost.
Yeah.
The premise here is that it could conceivably be more than 5, and it could be more than 6, and you want to keep it down to 2.5, here's a way. Give the town the specific option of keeping it at 2.5.
just think, well, but in the language, you could say up to, because people, you could debate that later when you get the statutory language of, you know,
Yeah. Even the Federal Reserve is giving out 0% loans now, and no bank is giving it to you for less than 2.5. So that,
You just have to make sure that the percent that you're borrowing at can't change in a positive way
Right.
faster than what you're lending it
to
at.
be
The
indexed.
thing is that if it's 2.5% in the legislation that passes tomorrow, okay, but then we borrow the money in a year, that's the point. Is that what's the rate then?
Right, and I was more concerned of then what does it go up to 5 or 10 years later?
Well, I know.
You've got to make sure that
well,
it's a
that,
fixed rate.
that wouldn't be a problem, because when you borrow it, you're borrowing it at a fixed rate of interest for the entire term of the
Right.
20 or 30
As long
years.
as- Yes.
It's
okay.
just that, yeah,
So-
if things start to escalate,
Right.
that's it, that's when. it
But
could be.
then the town will always have the option of not going with its own special act and go with the state law if it wants to,
Good point.
if it wants to take care of itself.
Yeah, good.
A suggestion that you may want as a committee is to talk to Jen Petit, the finance director. Maybe palatable to more people if you have scenarios with the rate that you borrow, 0 versus 2% versus 4%.
Sure.
It may help the public understand the mathematical equation to it, which I hear a lot of people questioning the whole process, but how much is it gonna really cost? So having something, a couple of different scenarios, Excel spreadsheets with that on it. And you may also want to touch base with Eastham. They went for special legislation for wastewater, and I believe it just got turned down. So check with them and see, there may be something you might want to stay away from.
Right,
Or
Good,
they
good,
may have,
yeah.
have some information that would be helpful.
sure. Good.
Okay. What was your contact at Eastham, or who would you suggest?
I would start with the DPW. My contact was the assessor in Eastham. I just came from a conference and we were talking about
Okay.
wastewater happened to come up,
Okay,
and water, so it might be, start with the
Right.
DPW.
okay.
We could check with the state rep down there too and see why it didn't pass.
Yeah, talk to Sarah Peets. She probably has all the details,
Okay.
or Dan Wolf.
Could you explain this, these things that I've been thinking about and tracking? When I talked to you, is the fundamental reason why we couldn't go with a percent of home value as a betterment? And, that's one discussion. The other discussion we had, and you said, not over your dead body, but was this idea that under current law, we can give residents a deferral of so much money, so that you give year-round residents a break versus seasonal residents. But you said that takes a lot of effort for you to implement. It wasn't a deferral.
Well, you talked to me about that a while ago, Jerry. I don't remember the details of that conversation.
You said you didn't have the staff to implement it.
That was the bedroom count, using
Oh, that was the bedroom
That was
count?
the bedroom count. You would have to use, we have good records of bedroom counts for everybody for the properties that we've been into, but, people have since made changes. If we were in their house 3 or 4 years ago and they had 3 bedrooms, they may have taken that study or the library and turned it into another bedroom.
How do we
Yeah. Okay,
give,
just through the chair, Jerry.
okay,
Yeah.
through the chair, how do you give permanent residents a break over seasonal residents on the general tax bill?
Well, you can do that if the town accepts a state law that allows a special break for
Okay,
year-round
you're-
residents. But it's not to do with betterments, it's to do with
It's to
just,
do with personal property. Are you
If-
confusing it with that?
if you're paying a personal property, you get to pay 20% more or something like that.
If you're a resident, you're not charged personal property tax.
Mhm.
If it's a second home,
Mhm.
it's not your primary domicile, you are charged a personal property tax of 3% of the building value, which would equate to what everybody would think your furniture would be worth. That's for a second homeowner. They all pay that. That's straight across
Right.
the board.
I
Is that
thought,
what you're confusing?
no,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Barnstable does it, but most Cape and
You're
Islands
talking about a
towns don't.
residential exemption.
Right.
yes.
That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, that's something totally different. That doesn't play into the betterments,
Right.
though. A residential
Nothing to do with
exemption is if you're a resident, as we all are here, because you are all on this board, so you're a resident to sit here, we would be granted $1,000 residential exemption.
How about 75,000?
Okay, you're getting way off the track.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that comes off the tax base, so ultimately, if everybody is gonna be getting $1,000 of residential exemption, it's coming off the tax base, so the rate's gonna go up.
Okay.
So.
Everybody else.
Everybody is paying one way or
Okay.
another.
Okay, it's got nothing to do with betterments
Right.
anyway.
Exactly.
Right.
Now, the other option, which had, your predecessor actually gave us a printout at one point showing what it would be like in Mara Vista if you had assessment-based betterments. And it was sort of intriguing. 2/3 of the people paid less than they would otherwise, and 1/3 paid more. At the very bottom of the heap, the people with the least value houses were paying about half of what they would otherwise, and the people with the very fancy houses were paying about double what they would otherwise. So it seemed quite equitable in some respects, because the high-end houses tend to be the ones on the water, which tend to be the most egregious difficulty as far as producing the problems for the ponds, and they're also the ones that can afford to pay more.
In most cases.
In most cases, if you've got waterfront property in this town, with very few exceptions, you can afford to pay more than the 2 little bedroom house on some little street.
And you probably have more bedrooms.
You might well.
I mean, there's a correlation.
You might well. In any event, the breakdown was pretty striking.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
I'll see if he still has it in his file or if he
Yeah.
had it.
I have it. Sia has
I have
it.
it.
Yeah, you could send that over.
I will.
Yes.
Yeah, he did it for the whole of Mara Vista.
Right. And that suggestion actually came out of the public. in one of our early meetings, and they just thought it seemed fair that the bigger houses should carry more of the cost, and they certainly would have the more bedrooms.
I can hear their argument now, though.
Oh, yes.
We're only here 2 months after.
That's right. No matter what we choose, there'll be
Well, they'll also say that they're already paying more in the 50% that's being covered by the taxes.
Yeah.
Well, believe me, there are wonderful arguments against everybody paying anything for anything.
Some of those people don't vote, though.
Yeah.
Jerry has made a good point.
Right. We should also point out that if this were a water project rather than a wastewater collection project, the legislation is already in place. You can assess based on value of the property. That's already state law, but for some reason, whoever got it through that way didn't include wastewater. So we're basically, we follow the template, except wherever it says water, it would become wastewater. So it's not that this is a totally brand new idea. It emerged from the original look that the review committee did of legislation related to betterments and funding and so on. And Matt's suggestion about the checkerboarding is, related to the experience that they had in Provincetown. So we're really drawing on things that have already happened somewhere and trying to put them into a menu for a town meeting to consider in the fall as to, to what degree we want to see if we can help homeowners.
Exactly. Mr. Waterbury,
One of the consequences.
find yourself a microphone. In fact, would anybody object if he sat here, since he will be
Not
sitting
really,
here
no.
officially in a week or two? We didn't get a chance to say this before, but we are all thrilled that you've rejoined the effort. You served on the review committee with Trish and others, and
Wonderful addition.
yes.
One of the consequences of sewering, of course, is that the small little houses get enlarged. So when you set betterments, they're set for the entire project.
Mm-hmm.
And so that if as a consequence of a sewering project, someone then makes a little cottage which has gotten a very modest assessment of a betterment, and then enlarges it
Nice.
enormously,
Yeah.
that introduces an inequity.
Does that have to
That's
do?
something which
Yeah.
Because the betterment doesn't go up when their house.
Once the betterment is set,
That's it.
Right,
it's set.
doesn't go up. See ya?
We've been looking at this particular area. While in general, that's probably very likely. In the lower Little Pond area, where there are less than 5,000 square foot lots, conversations with planning, we've looked at, is it likely, is it reasonable to think that the demographic will change and that area will become, instead of a seasonal, small, that kind of residence, bigger houses and more people in them. And the consensus is really no for that area. Because of lot size, because of the employment situation in Falmouth, they're likely not to turn into year-round. But moreover, there are setback and side yard requirements. It's hard to actually make them
They can go up, basically.
that much more. But generally, the idea is there's also something called demographic inertia, where at least for the next 20 years, it's likely that what's going on there will continue to go on there. And that, if you start looking at the short term.
Yeah.
Does this have
Right.
anything at all to do with the flow neutral
That's what I
bylaw?
was gonna say.
It does.
It's the underpinning of it. It may be the underpinning of it.
And presumably there will be in place, if the town meeting and agrees, a flow neutral bylaw that will set limits on the ability to turn a 2-bedroom house into an 8-bedroom house, or even a 6 or even a 4. But not unreasonable limits, but just sensible limits. And the town meeting will have to look at those in the fall.
Drive around the Heights if you want to see some, to the chair. Yeah, I know of one 11-bedroom bed and breakfast was bought by an individual. Square footage is the same, and he's only putting in a 7-bedroom house. I reminded him of the assessment, it didn't seem to bother him. It's still under construction. Oh, potential. Yeah. So I think
Yeah.
what John said, we have to weigh it,
Sure.
considering the area. Who wants to raise their kids on 5,000 square foot total lot,
Yeah.
where 20% of it's already a house?
Right, right, good point.
When you're working.
I was just
Right.
thinking that this is a rather complex issue that might go away if the oysters gobble up the problem. So we might have to-
Well, the oysters are on the agenda, and we expect a cheerful report on the oysters.
That might be a fond hope.
I don't know, I'm just saying. yeah,
Right.
you know.
But any further discussion on special act issues?
Maybe I'll just ask Trish about your staffing. If we do need to identify the bedrooms within all the structures within the sewer service area, we're talking about 1,400 parcels, give or take. What's your sense of what would be needed and how long would be needed in order to review the records and see which ones needed actual inspections and which were up to date?
Well, I would think realistically, if you were gonna start bettering them per bedroom, you'd wanna do an inspection on each property.
Yeah,
Unless
so that
had
they were
recently-
all the same.
I would say you
Yeah.
wanna do all of them.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned earlier that you're obliged by state law to go visit every property once every, what do you say, 10 years?
10 years.
So when's
That
that,
doesn't mean.
when's that happening? Or-
It's cyclical. We're out there every day.
Okay, oh, so it's not like
It's
every,
on a schedule.
okay,
We're out
so
there.
that particular part of town wouldn't necessarily be done in any particular year?
So through the chair,
Sure.
the question is, do you know how many houses you can do in a day? One person can do
One
in a
person
day?
could probably do 20 in a day.
20 in a day?
Yep.
All right.
To the
So
chair,
do
how
that.
long would it take?
There we go.
You know, it's an in and out. You're only going in and counting bedrooms.
Counting bedrooms, yeah.
Mhm, 20 per day, so
I mean,
one
common
person,
sense
20.
tells you that counting the bedrooms in a house is a lot easier than installing a sewer to the house. I mean, in other words, the cost is peanuts
True.
compared to the work that's to be done to that house. The cost of counting the bedrooms in it.
Right.
It's
Yes,
a negligible extra cost to the town.
And it's fair to say, if we ended up with a bylaw that had something, or a betterment scheme that had something to do with bedrooms, we could count the bedrooms, and we could find money to do that as part of that project.
I
if-
think you could fund a staff person through that money that you're borrowing. That's an
Sure.
incidental cost to the
Yeah.
whole project.
Mhm.
So you could bring that in. And that's something that you could hire out a consultant. There's plenty of companies that hire out listers, that we could hire an independent lister to work on just that. Using our staff, once you get in the house, you want to make sure that there's maybe 4 bedrooms and other stuff that's not on the card to start with. So 20 might quickly turn into 12 a day. If
Right.
they start going, I mean, if they're in the property,
Right.
it just makes sense that you're in the property, you're gonna look at the whole house at the same time.
75 person days,
Okay.
Okay.
if it's 20.
Okay.
I just
Brian.
have one more point, and that is that, all right, so if someone defers payments, like an elderly person over 65, and then they die, okay? And then someone inherits the house, do they have to pay the full betterment at that point?
If they inherit the house, the only person that does not have to pay it is the spouse.
Okay,
If you owned it singular and you passed,
Right.
and you were married and your spouse inherited through the will process,
okay,
the spouse does not have to pay it back. If your children inherit it, it's due and payable at 16%.
okay, so is that something we might wanna look into, that if that happened, that the people who inherit could just pay the back what's owed, as opposed to having to pay off the whole betterment? Is that an option we might consider, a special act, just so, I don't know if it's kind of a big burden, and they would have to give up the house, I mean, a lot of people might have to, but if there's less than, whatever it's gonna be, 15,000, let's say they owe 5,000 or something, in back payments.
They owe
only
interest
have to
in-
pay back what they owe, only paying back what they deferred. If they deferred
Oh.
15,000, that's what they would be paying back. If the betterment was 30 and they deferred 15,000 in
Yeah.
the past,
Plus interest.
plus interest.
Well, would a reasonable compromise be that it has to be paid, but it can be paid on time?
What
Would be
they
pro-
owe, what they owe is.
Right, it doesn't have to be, instead of paying as a lump sum,
Mhm,
the town will still get their money, corrected for discounted cash flow.
mhm.
But the children who inherit get to pay it, it's as though it
It's a
was
new
moved
loan.
forward in time.
But at 16% interest, you said.
Well, that seems exorbitant, but it's some
That's just
reasonable
something to
rate.
think-
It's
I'm just
exorbitant.
trying to think about, it's kind of tough.
Then you're just extending the debt that the town is due and payable.
Yeah, but
Uh-huh.
the town is getting its cash correct at a reasonable discounted cash flow. They're getting it delayed, but they're getting interest for that.
I would have to-
And the person is not stuck with a one-time lump sum.
They're not-
I mean, it's the same as if the person paid the lump sum
Understood.
and went out and borrowed the money from a bank.
Mhm. You'd have to change the betterment legislation in order to do that, because the way the legislation is written now, it's due and it's due.
Right.
So you would have to make a big legislative change. I think having a chance of making a change to that,
Small.
Pretty
it's
small.
very,
huh?
very small.
Okay.
So it's-
Very,
it's-
very small. And we go into an agreement with the parties
Yeah.
that it's gonna be paid at some point. Passing on and leaving it to your children is just extending the debt that's owed to the town. And I don't know if there's many people that would wanna continue to pay that 8% interest.
No, right.
It's obvious if you can borrow it less from the bank than the
So
town.
then-
You can
right,
borrow
so
the
that's
money
how
out.
people do it, right.
That's right.
Exactly.
It's
No,
cheaper to pay it off and just
Mhm.
getting a loan. Yeah,
Yeah,
much
right.
cheaper.
And you have a good point. We do want to keep it simple for the legislature. 'Cause-
Well,
Right, the tougher you add more changes to it,
that's
you're
right.
Yeah.
gonna have more people that are gonna object to it.
Right. Yeah, no, anyway, keep it simple.
Mhm.
Any further comments on this is the first of obviously more conversation to be had on this subject, but any further comments or questions tonight on item 3, the idea of a special act?
I had one additional one that goes back to, and this is a classical argument, which I've heard that there's no right answer to. Are sewers, there's a house that's sewered versus a house with a well-maintained, acceptable Title V system. Is there inherent increase in value on one house over the other? Properly functioning septic tank and a sewer.
Oh, there's your answer.
There's been no increase in value in the new silver area.
I wanted you to say it, that's what I understand it.
Fact, right,
Yeah.
there's been no
Oh, yeah.
increase in value due
You've
to
said
the
that
fact that
before.
there's a sewer system there. We don't see any correlation between the two.
I would, the only difference might be that some of those folks can sell their houses, whereas previously they couldn't sell their houses because they didn't comply with Title V and they couldn't
Said
put in
well-functioning.
Title V.
Yeah.
Right, so the question of did they get some value? You bet they did.
But
They
the assessment
they had
fee-
houses that in essence were unsaleable, and now they have houses that are eminently saleable. So
Oh,
that,
they improved them.
okay,
I've heard numerous people dealing with commercial projects say they would not build in an area that didn't have a sewer. If they had a choice of 2 sites that
That's
were otherwise equal. They would-
commercial,
Right.
quite proud. Well,
Just, yeah, it's the one thing that, I don't know if they've discussed with you yet, just the concept, is like the exemptions for the eco-toilet demonstration project, okay, so that they would be,
Jerry talked to me
okay,
about
all right.
Well, I mean, I think, I talked to you a lot.
yeah,
And
that's
I
for
forget.
another night, Jerry.
Oh, okay, no, I just wanted to explain what the answer was.
Fine.
Oh,
Thank you for joining us.
Anytime, just let me know if you want.
Yeah, well, you will.
Shoot me an email, or I can come, and I strongly suggest that you talk to Jen Fatigue about
Yep.
some of that.
Well,
too.
We'll have her too.
She's really good
Mhm.
with coming up with alternative ideas on financing, and
Terrific.
she's been in a couple of other towns
Yep.
that may have already done something like this. So she might have some ideas that might help too.
Yeah,
That's great.
That's good, because we will need to basically draft what it is we want this summer. The warrant for the fall town meeting closes very early in September. And, okay, thank you.
All right,
Thank you very much. Okay, back to item 1, and the Site 7 and the environmental studies and the monitoring that is underway and proposed is getting to be a lengthy list, so help me out if I miss anything here. Starting with Herring Creek. Herring Creek was listed last month on the EPA's and the state's list of impaired water bodies. And we've had conversations with the Coalition for Buzzards Bay, who proposed the listing, and with SMAS and with our own consultants. And the upshot of that was a couple of things. One was that we would do some additional monitoring. The coalition did monitoring at one spot for the last 7 years or so, directly below the bridge that's between the two beaches. We've added an additional spot, two additional spots.
Yep, I was out there over the
Okay.
weekend looking for good access to get into the
Right.
water. There's two spots. One is, it's called HB4, so
Right.
the existing spot is under the bridge is HB2. And they actually can wade in from
Mhm.
there. HB3 is at a midpoint about where Spartina
Okay.
Place goes in. And a very nice year-round resident has a little path that goes down to the
Right.
water, and so a sample can be obtained fairly conveniently there. And then there's a spot further upstream, pretty much right where there's a V. If you look at it, I don't have a map with me, but Wing Pond comes in at one end, and another watershed comes in to the south, and so there's those two outfall into a location, and I think it's going to be likely that we can get right there. And I've had conversations with Rachel at Coalition, and she thinks that makes a lot of sense to look at both of those upstream locations, because what we're really trying to establish is whether there's an artifact from the failed septic system at HB
It's been removed and relocated.
from the bathhouse at Old Silver Beach, where urine was pouring in there the same months that they were measuring.
200 feet away.
200 feet, less than 200 feet away. So where they were sampling. So the idea is to look upstream, and if the nitrogen concentrations are lower upstream than downstream, that will tell us something fairly significant. And that's why two spots are important.
I presume that urine flow has been stopped.
It has. The
Yes.
DPW installed.
Yes.
Well,
I mean,
even if it hadn't been stopped and we were measuring upstream, and
no, I
we
know, but we should still, yeah.
We should
the
stop
point
it
is-
just because that's what we
there's
do
a
here.
nice Title V septic system that the DPW, the engineering department engineered the system, and they did a great job, and it's now installed, and
It's not close to the outlet.
it's as far away as
You
they
know what I mean,
can.
is that then, it'd be good to, you still take samples.
At HB2.
downstream, both places.
Yes.
Absolutely.
This was pouring in through a pipe, not
No, it
not
wasn't.
leaking through the
Leaking.
ground?
No, it was
It was a-
sitting in the groundwater.
It's a cesspool.
In the
It was a
cesspool.
cesspool sitting
And you're
in the
taking into
groundwater.
account the lag times through the groundwater?
It's
It's
pretty much sand.
30 feet away.
Oh.
Oh, 40 feet.
1 month.
Yeah.
How much like that?
Affected by the tide, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's the
Right.
old
Well, it'll be
trick.
very interesting to see. I mean,
Yeah,
I think
it
I
will.
think it was
Yeah.
even
Sure.
the Buzzards Bay Coalition agreed that this was worthy of
Right.
some deeper analysis. So
Right.
Right, and we're working with the coalition
very
Right.
closely, right?
on this topic and through our consultant at the GHD. Okay, so that's that water body.
No, we did a particle track, and we can avoid.
Well, we're coming to
Okay,
that.
Herring Brook.
Thank you.
Okay.
The next particle, the next issue is the pond next to the salt pond sanctuaries, the
Crocker Pond.
Cracker Pond.
Yeah.
There was a bathymetry test done, so we know the dimensions and the depth of that water body. There was I guess recently, a soil test that just to the east of it, right along Route 28A, that went down. How far did it go down?
It went down 90 feet.
90 feet. Samples have been brought back. They're undergoing review now. We still haven't gotten anything back on that, but the premise here is to find out what the soil is like just to the east of the pond, where any flow from Site 7 would be passing through, to see how good the soil is as far as absorption and that sort of thing. So we'll get numbers back on that. There's also, Ron.
I don't know, I just want the Crocker Pond, the bottom of Crocker Pond is 13 feet or something below sea level. So it's I mean, I don't know how deep where the soil is or where the flow is going to come.
Groundwater flows in, you're supposed to exfiltrating out.
Crocker Pond is a typical kettle hole pond, so
Right.
it's basically a cone. The deepest point, which is more or less in the center, is actually 28 feet below sea level.
28 feet below sea level,
Well,
or
that's
28 feet deep.
28 feet deep.
28 feet deep, but, so that's
Right,
right, it's
right.
28 feet below the water table. I'm
Right,
sorry.
right, yeah.
Okay. And then the particle tracking shows that to the degree there are particles from Site 7, a portion of those go to the south of Crocker Pond. So they're not necessarily going to hit the deepest point, but that's the range.
Hmm.
Yes, this particle tracking.
The south is toward West Falmouth Harbor.
No,
Well,
no, no,
yeah,
no, no.
yeah, well-
The south of the
The south,
still within the whole
Yeah.
watershed. The whole watershed
Yeah.
still discharges directly to Buzzards Bay.
Right. One of the issues that was raised, was the question that was raised was whether or not putting a volume of water in at Site 7, a third of a mile away from Crocker Pond, would affect Crocker Pond and would affect West Falmouth Harbor. The answer to West Falmouth Harbor is no. Particle tracking studies have been completed on that, and there is no effect on West Falmouth Harbor. The question at Crocker Pond is not, because it's a freshwater pond, Crocker Pond is not affected by nitrogen, but it is very much affected by a high quantity of phosphorus, if that were coming their way. So one of the issues obviously is how much phosphorus would get there, how long would it take to get there, would it have an effect in the quantities that it was getting there when it got there, and then those things are still being studied by our consultants and the subcontractors that are working for them, but we're expecting answers in the next couple of months to all those questions.
Okay, so the particle study though, does it envision 275,000 gallons a day and how that might affect?
Well, that's another thing that's going on.
Okay.
The original number of 290, which was, I would say it was a back of the envelope number, but it was even less than a back of the envelope number in many respects. You remember it was the $8,000 study that we commissioned here?
Mm.
And $8,000, as we've all discovered, does not buy you real technical and real detailed answers. So since that time, the consultant has been engaged in trying to produce a real detailed and real a detailed answer of to exactly what kind of flow we are talking about out of this area.
Okay.
As of this date, he has not delivered that number to us, but he is planning to in the very near future. And we'll have a real number. The 290 was sort of a beyond ballpark estimate. It was a very conservative estimate because he needed a number to work with. So when we have a real number, then all these other studies will be based on that number, and we'll have the best data that's available.
And just for the listening audience and the enterprise, we're using some shorthand here. 290 is really 290,000 gallons per day discharged to the 2 sand filter beds at Site 7. And that would be, theoretically, that was the initial number used for the flow that would come out of the sewer service area that has been defined as a portion of Mara Vista and a portion of Falmouth Heights.
Right.
And we maximize the hydraulic loading on the site, so we know how much to avoid Herring Brook. That's what I want to mention. We know there's another load that may not flow, that may not be real, but we can avoid Herring Brook altogether by achieving that flow, and it's less than 290,000 gallons.
Yeah, this committee, when it first took this up, asked the contractor, the GHD, to tell us what we could do on this site without impairing any water bodies. And that includes Crocker Pond, and that includes Herring Brook, and that includes West Falmouth Harbor, any water bodies. And we're holding to that. You know, as the numbers are developed and the studies are developed, that's everybody's understanding. Yeah.
We don't have that number yet, right?
Right.
No.
Okay, because the site would the site be considered for more than, you know, like the existing flow going to the plant now? Would some of that,
divert
is there a
some of that?
possibility it might be diverted to the?
Well, I never thought of that.
Well, in other words, some of the 500,000.
No, I don't know what.
I don't know.
No, I don't know if that's in the, if that's a possibility because of West Falmouth Harbor, then that would need to be factored into the analysis. That's the.
It's a possibility if we can get at least what we want from Little Pond into there and not impact Crocker Brook.
Yeah, until you have that number, it's hard to say, but that's a fair question.
Yeah.
No, Crocker Pond. Herring Brook, we're not going to impact, we know that. it's listed, we can't.
Okay, any other questions on item 1 here? See, anything to add?
No, I think
Okay,
that's what we're doing.
all right. Number 4, PRB sites.
PRB sites. I did bring some handouts that I thought might help.
Is that what you sent us here? That I have a copy of?
Okay. Oh, you've got the packet. Okay.
I went.
Okay. Well, the two that I picked out, let's see, maybe we can give this to the enterprise just so they
Oh, yeah.
know, and let's pass around to a few other
For
people.
the
who-
enterprise.
Maybe for our
And
minute
for-
taker, note
Yeah.
taker.
Some more?
Right,
Yeah.
and for our
Do you have an extra?
viewing audience, yeah. we need
Let me
another.
see if I have those.
Right, if you have any.
Any more?
Okay. Are we doing okay?
What page is
You have
it?
another?
I'm good.
Yep.
Everybody?
that toward the end of the
I'm down to
thing,
my
or-
last part.
These two?
Share mine.
So
Oh,
you can share.
Right.
I tried printing it out, I didn't get much.
There's
So one of this
One
is
of
West
One.
Falmouth, and the other one is the
You're gonna
South
go,
Shore
yeah, 50 or
Peninsulas.
something taller.
Just to back up, PRB stands for Permeable Reactive Barrier, and it is a technology that we're investigating. It's basically a trench with a carbon source, which could be just as simple as wood chips, through which the groundwater passes. The groundwater has nitrogen, nitrates in it. There is a chemical reaction. The nitrates are bound up because of the additional carbon source, and the nitrogen goes off as a gas, and the water on the downstream side should not have the nitrates and any other nutrients to negatively impact the estuary where the groundwater is ultimately going to end up. The town hired CDM Smith to look at the whole South Coast area and the area in West Falmouth Harbor to see if it was feasible to install as a pilot program 1 or 2 permeable reactive barriers.
With Selma.
They have screened the whole area, and they originally came down to 17 sites, which have now been screened down to 4 or 5, and that's what these 2 pages are. Let's take West Falmouth Harbor first. That's the one that shows Mashpacker Creek and West Falmouth Harbor. The objective in West Falmouth is to go where the nitrates are the highest, and that's the area where the center of the plume from the wastewater treatment plant is exiting into West Falmouth Harbor. It's shown where the number 5 is, and you'll see that there's a slightly different color. It's orange instead of cranberry colored. So that is the area of highest concentration, and based on the road layout, which is wide there, they believe that they would be able to install a PRB in that area. They also looked at Site 7, which is down near the dock, but that is outside. It's very much at the sort of edge, periphery of any nitrates from the plant, and it was a shorter run. It would interfere with boating and so on. So they're looking for areas where they can physically construct at this point in order to do the pilot test. So Area 5, Site 5, is the likely location for the PRB in West Falmouth. It now has to go to a design level, and then that's when they look at where's the water main, where's the gas main, where are the water connections to the houses, do we have other underground conduits? So they begin to look at the real specifics of how easy is it to install.
So it will go in the road layout.
It would go in the road layout as the current plan. We want monitoring wells upstream, what's arriving at the PRB, and you need space for monitoring wells on the downstream side, which may have to be on private property. So we would obviously need the cooperation of the neighborhood or particular property owners in order to be able to measure the effect. All of these demonstration projects have a burden of proof to the Department of Environmental Protection that they work and that they're actually removing nitrogen. So the monitoring program, just as it is for the aquaculture and the eco toilets, the monitoring program is a key piece that has to be developed along with locating physically where is the site that you could build. Okay, so now I'm going to, sorry, go ahead.
I just had a couple of questions. Well, one, I just like, for again, for the listening audience, when you say that nitrogen gas will be going into the atmosphere,
Yeah.
people should know that 80% of what we're breathing is nitrogen gas.
Thank you very much. That's true. Don't worry.
Yeah, don't worry about it. It's not going to make it, it's a smidgen. Okay.
Right.
I'm glad you brought that up.
That's very true.
Yeah, the second point is that about 3 years ago when this was discussed, as I recall, there was some issue with West Falmouth that we would have to dig very deep to intercept. And maybe, I don't know if it's this spot, but there was something about there was a number of like 70 feet or something in some place, and I wasn't sure exactly how if this has been assessed properly to make sure we're going deep enough.
It's a very good question. And if the PR, we also looked at 28A, which it just, you know where 28A is.
Right.
And if you moved
right,
farther
right.
inland, yes, the PRB would have had to have been much deeper. But the plume begins
Right,
comes to the surface. It's a saltwater, freshwater
Right.
interface.
Right.
And so, although we don't know, at least I don't know to give you a number, exactly how deep we have to go, it is surmised that, and we'll ask the hydrologist specifically, it's not going to be anything like 70 feet. It really can't be. That's a depth.
It never made sense to me.
No.
But it was discussed that there was some issue, like depth for some reason.
Right.
That's correct, and it's because the nitrogen source for at least the plume from West Falmouth is at a distance, and so as we know, all these groundwater paths are curved, and so they definitely get depressed into the aquifer, and then they only surface at the saltwater. So we need that is a critical factor as we go into the design. They may actually need to do a boring and measure as they go down. The permeably active area would start at the water table and go down, so it would also be capturing the near the lots that are in the near area. So it actually would be performing two functions. We're looking at detailed design in order to make a decision, shall we construct?
Right, and how much would it cost?
Well, yes, not to mention how much would it cost.
Right, because if we're going to go to the to the April and May in 2014 with a capital piece, we have to have design and cost pretty well figured out before then. So
This may be trivial, but this is a demonstration project. So the thought is, if it works and the nitrogen removal per dollar of investment is favorable, you'd expand it.
To a degree, I'd say. That's true for the South Coast. For here, the real huge input is the plume from the wastewater treatment plant.
Right, but would you, for instance, would you make the 5 area twice as big as it is now?
The answer is yes. Theoretically, you could do that, and you should be able to do that.
So, is there any substantial saving to, is there any part of the detailed design process, such as mapping the utility areas, where going another 100 yards each side, the marginal cost is peanuts compared to doing it at all?
Good question.
While you're
Yeah.
in the computer or
That's
something.
true.
Yeah. Well,
Because you'd also have then be ready to project how much more it would cost you to do that expansion.
I think that's a good
I
suggestion.
think that's part of it. I mean,
Which it has to make sure it
Well,
is. Yeah.
to the extent we can duplicate and to the extent we can get
Right.
this demonstration as large as we can in a shorter period of time without
Right.
getting a lot of easements and things like that.
He's just talking about
No,
design.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I'm not saying make it bigger. I'm saying if it's a demonstration project, by definition, you're saying you plan to do more or bigger if it works.
If we can at that
works.
site.
If it works.
Right. Well, if they're going to get the information about
Utilities.
for
Oh,
this
I see,
strip.
okay, yeah, I missed
Get the
it.
information for
Yeah.
utilities for the next 500 feet too.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
that-
Both
Yeah, in both
north and
directions.
south.
Right.
And same on anywhere
Free
else.
anyway.
It's,
Dig
yeah,
safe just
it's
shows
actually
up.
gonna be the same along the whole road.
Right.
Quite,
You know,
yeah.
so it's not.
Yeah, but you-
But you
do
want
it
to know if
for
there's
fun.
any surprises. yeah.
Other than water connections, because water connections are going to cross the road, and each one of those is an interruption. There's still some design issues with PRBs that have to be fleshed out, but I think your point is well taken. Hilda?
Yes, in your introduction, you mentioned that they also reduce other nutrients.
Yes.
And how is that known, besides the nitrogen, that it also captures other nutrients?
Well, you're going to have adsorption of the phosphorus that's in the groundwater if you've intercepted a local septic system. So that's the other piece that I was referring to. I don't know about other chemicals. I don't know about personal products. I have no data that says the PRB will or won't remove that.
We could add
Will
some stuff.
remove phosphorus,
You get, yes.
catch it.
Yep. Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. Phosphorus is not an issue in a saltwater regime, but, you know,
We could measure
it's
it. That's a
there.
good point.
Well, it can't keep catching it forever.
Well, that's right. And that's what the DEP will say. So maybe the PRB lasts for 20 years, 30 years. You know, if you're a
Right.
pessimist, it only lasts 10. So all of those things need to be addressed. We do have to say that we have information from Waterloo, Canada, and that's PRB is still going strong, and it's been there 15 years.
And if you do remember that when our consultants were here, they pointed out that they can be rejuvenated by
Right.
adding
And you have to rejuvenate it anyway, even just because of the carbon
vegetable
source.
oil and thing and whatever.
That's right.
It is, yeah.
Right. Okay, so then moving on to the peninsulas, they looked at all of the peninsulas, and there were something like 24 sites. Ultimately concluded that Shorewood Road, I guess it's called, in the Great Harbors area was a good candidate, and Edgewater Drive West in the Seacoast area was a good candidate. At the moment, we're just operating with what they show as numbers 1, 2, and 3, and then Seacoast Shores has 4 ABC. There is an unusual, for Falmouth, situation with the neighborhood that's called Great Harbors. They own their own roads in fee. They're not owned by the town. And so it was an obvious thing that this subcommittee needed to do. Ask Great Harbors, are you interested? So Jerry and I went to meet with their board of directors last Saturday morning, and we are meeting with their whole membership this Saturday morning to see what the interest is. Is there a question, Matt, or Ron? Okay. So the one is site 1 is, from an engineering point of view, the most desirable because there's room to put monitoring wells upstream, put the PRB in the road, and then monitoring wells downstream. Sites 2 and 3 along Shorewood Drive they're lesser, but they are potential. And we'll see what the reaction is from the whole membership on Saturday. Over in Seacoast Shores, sites 4A and 4C are in unpaved roads, and 4B, I believe, is the paved section. So Edgewater Drive West has a number of circumstances in terms of narrowness of the road, and then also ability to be able to put monitoring wells. So all of those at this point are sort of under review, and we're going to have a meeting with Seacoast Shores residents in July.
We hope to,
We hope. It's not necessarily set up yet.
no, I know one of the board of directors, and there is some controversial issues coming up, and I'm suggesting either maybe they have a 2-day meeting, which they don't necessarily want to, or they're going to discuss it.
Okay.
Or we get invited to a special meeting So the angst from what they're coming from.
Good point.
Good idea.
Doesn't get mixed in.
Good
Okay.
idea.
So that's where we are with the design on PRBs.
Steve?
How many will ultimately go on the South Shore?
One is all we've contracted
One.
for.
And how long will it be?
We're talking 500 feet, maybe longer.
And have they thought about the statistical desirability of having two that are each 250 feet instead of
Haven't
a
gotten,
one
haven't
that are
gotten that
500?
far yet.
Like, just
They-
to be in different places in case there's a jinx on some area.
Well,
Right.
they're going to take this design now, they're going to design 4. They're going to look at design detail for 4. One will be in West Falmouth, and the other 3 will be here on the south coast. And then, then we're
3.
gonna-
No, I thought you just said 1.
Ultimately, you said how much, what will be built? And the answer is 1 on the south coast and 1 probably in West
okay.
Falmouth.
But 4 will be
But
costed out.
a total of 4 will be costed out, and for the South Shore, a total of 3 will be costed out. Because there's still neighborhood acceptability, and there may be unknown utility problems. So it's still in an evaluation
I mean,
process.
I don't have any compelling knowledge that 2 is better than 1. But I have enough intuition that somebody ought to at least think about it.
Yeah,
Yes.
and you're saying 2 250s versus 1 500.
500. Just because there might be very different soils, and if you do something once
Yeah.
and you get one number, or once that you sort of wonder,
Okay.
will the second one replicate it or not?
Right.
Once you've done something 2 or 3 times, you
Then-
begin to see a pattern,
Then
and
it,
you say, "Oh, I guess I can do this."
okay, good input.
Were you aware that the Cape Cod Commission did a cross-section of Seacoast
Oh,
shores?
yes.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that
those
up.
profiles?
Well, not only that, Tom Cambereri went out. There were 4 wells put in. We have the data from the early 1990s. He has found 3 of those 4 wells, and he's determined to find the 4th. So we have that monitoring information from early 1990s to compare with the information. And one of those, it's near Site 4B. It's Bay Shore Drive.
To give credit where it's due, they had to use a metal detector supplied by the town of Falmouth
Water Department.
Water
Just in
Department.
time.
Just in time delivery that day.
Right.
Right. The guy comes to town and says, "How am I going to find these things?" And
Well, I told them to rent it and then return it, but no one else liked that.
So that was really, we're very excited about that. And perhaps we should just add as one more footnote, the U.S. Geological Survey is also doing groundwater work, and this is more stratigraphy, layers of soil and mass balance, water flow and so on. And they're also working on Seacoast Shores. So we're getting a lot of really new information from Seacoast Shores.
Yeah.
I have a couple things. One is on these, in these selected areas, I assume that the sites are the predominant, like when Steve and Steve were working together on developing the concept in the subcommittee, there was some notion that some areas that the groundwater flowed or sort of concentrated in some particular areas. So like the whole length of that, for example, in Seacoast Shores 4A, B, and C, there might be some strategic places where actually the main flow goes through one particular area. Has that been factored into this notion, or is it assumed that it's just all going evenly?
The short answer is we haven't done specific soil borings that would say that all the soils were pretty uniform, but visually, if you drive this stretch, it looks pretty uniform. That's my first comment. The second is that the area is almost completely built up, and from a groundwater point of view, you can see the groundwater line is more or less running up the center spine of Seacoast Shores. It's all flowing pretty due west, and we don't have anything that indicates that's not the case. So it's not like it gets bunched and channeled into some ancient valley and then comes out in one area. It's the flow appears to be fairly regularly towards the west. Having said that, the data that Tom Camberary collected, and he had a couple of multi-level monitoring wells, and he collected it over several times. He found a considerable amount of variability in his samples. The nitrate or the ammonia was at this level, and then it was that level, and so on. It means that the groundwater, at least the little data that we have, does show some variability, which would argue for having a somewhat longer PRB. If you have a short PRB, you may or may not.
Yeah, I was just going to say, with a downside to having two is end effects.
Yes, and it depends partly on what's the development upstream. So that's one of the things they're looking at. You know, do we have a solid block of houses upstream, or are we, you know, it's every third lot or whatever. So those factors are going to be looked at.
Well, I'm thinking more of the texture of the soil, that there might be clay deposits.
That's what Dennis is looking at.
Okay, so that's being, because it might be that we would select. The other thing is that, you know, I look at this in two ways actually, but we're looking at low-hanging fruit by going along the roads.
Right.
You know, so is it worthwhile? Question is it worthwhile doing a demonstration where we actually go right along the shore and find out what people think about our digging up their backyard, or does it really matter that much because we're getting, like in Seacoast Shores, we're getting the bulk of it anyway on the east side.
Right.
Yeah.
That actually was discussed briefly with the Board of Directors at Great Harbors. We talked about not going up their road, but instead going in the backyards of all these properties like that. And they thought about it and then dismissed it because it's going through everybody's backyard, everybody's plantings and whatever, and their tennis court or their pool or whatever. And it puts you much closer to the saltwater, freshwater interface and doesn't leave you enough room downstream to measure your result without getting into a whole lot of wetlands issues. So for all those reasons, they said, no, the road.
Okay, well, I mean, I think in any case, I mean, it's just a few you know, the relatively small number of properties on the edge. But according to Mike McGrath, those are the ones we need to do.
Well, and that's right. And that, to me, is where the eco-toilets comes in, or, you know.
There was another suggestion from an earlier consultant that for those places, they could just pump it across the other side of the barrier so that their waste
was on the
side.
other Earl.
Was it you?
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
Okay, well, send us your bill.
And do we have a TMDL for Eel Pond?
Yes, it's part of the Wacoit.
It's part of Wacoit. It's in, but that part hasn't been done.
Yeah, I think his question is correct.
We don't have one for Eel Pond now? What do we do?
I think it's part of the
I mean, it's not so important for this because we're looking at the barrier how it performs.
The report has been, the report has been done, but I don't think DEP has done the TMDL.
That's right.
That's right.
It's a draft, I think.
Because it's going to have to be several points, because this is such a complex watershed.
Correct.
They haven't done the TMDLs yet.
Yeah.
Also, I haven't kept track of this part of it. Even if you do it as one, 500-foot one, my guess is the impact, you can measure upstream and downstream of it in the ground or just offshore.
But
if you measure
in the ground.
Right. If you measured sentinel points in the estuary, you'd probably see no effect.
Because
something this small. Will that be a problem in getting approval from DEP for credit?
Well, the pilot isn't going to get us credit from DEP. The pilot is to prove that it's a technology that works, that would then be expanded, let's just say, up the full length of Shorewood. And if you do that, then you should see something. But first you have to prove that substantial amount of nitrate is being removed, and that's where the monitoring comes in, upstream and downstream of the PRB itself.
And we might then be able to say for every foot of this PRB, we expect so many pounds of nitrogen. That would be the
That-
credit we're looking for. And
That's
is that-
right.
Is it worth the investment
Right,
to
exactly.
take that
Yes.
job?
Everything comes back to pounds per dollar.
Yeah.
And to the chair, in the first tech memo, there were also, I don't know, 24 other pilots that looked at different things. So this is actually more than a pilot, it's more of a demonstration, you know, there have been small
Yeah, well, I was trying to make sure that it's at an appropriate point between the demos such as the one in McCoy Bay. And at that level, we know it works
Well, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That was
versus
more of a
full scale.
pilot,
You don't,
yeah.
if this is where you
Neighborhood.
are now and this is where you want to be, you don't want to put your study there.
Right.
Right.
You want it in the
Right.
middle.
Yeah. One of the criteria is wherever this demonstration is installed, is it expandable?
Right.
No. Okay, yes, Ron.
And I just think that also, again, coming back to this point, is that we're talking about dollars per pound of nitrogen removed, that in our equations, based on the town's goals and policies for energy use, we may still look at energy use per pound removed. It's just something in the thing, in the
Well, the
equation
PRB
that
won't
might-
involve much energy use.
Huh?
A PRB won't involve much
Well,
energy
I mean,
use.
it depends on the, but, you know, digging it and everything could be factored.
I mean, once it's there, it's
You know, once it's there, yeah, once it's operating.
It would be obviously cost-effective from an
You can do
energy point of
Life cycle
view.
cost analysis
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
All right.
porcelain and eco toilets.
All right.
okay, anyway, just,
Anything else on PRBs?
Just the last point. The PRB intercepts groundwater. So the groundwater has the septic load, but it will also have the fertilizer load and a stormwater load.
and the rain.
Well, that's the rain
Rain
coming
load,
down
yeah.
as stormwater or
Oh,
washing
I see.
through
Right, right,
as
right.
fertilizer.
Right, right.
So to that degree, it actually
Takes
is
off.
more effective than a sewer collection system.
Right. Okay, next item on the agenda, report on aquaculture demonstration project, which has been rolling along.
Yes. Oh,
Mickey Mouse.
oh,
You want-
okay, I can give a few points. Things are moving well. The oysters are alive, the ones that we put in the upweller and growing. And I think I had a look at them yesterday. I've got to get back to Chuck. It seems they're cleaning the water so much in the silos compared to what's outside the silos of the water coming in, because that's the water, it's an upweller, the water comes up
Yes.
from the bottom and goes out. What's very it's very clear. So I think we need to spread them out more, so they have enough, you know,
Food.
maximum food coming
Put
in.
some
So-
nitrogen in.
So we are, yeah, we're already, so in a way, we've started cleaning up Falmouth Harbor. With these little itty bitty things, you know, but they are cleaning up the nutrient level. But it's, yeah, so that's going well, and there's been a major effort now. We've just completed through, we're getting more volunteers. I just got people tonight that from the
T-Ticket?
T-Ticket Association,
Good.
who are two more people who have 3 weeks to work on this. So there's a lot of people. I don't know all their last names, but Mario and Elaine and Steve Fassett have been. Every time I go, and then they train me every time I go because I forget what I'm supposed to do now. But we're moving ahead. All of the nursery bags are basically completed, which means that they're ready to go in for the
4 millimeter.
4 millimeter bags that are ready to go in for the oysters that come out of the upweller.
Good.
So those are all done, and now they're building the next grow out bags, because the next batch of young oyster or baby oyster seed will be coming probably at the end of this month or early next, at which time we need the upweller for those. And then we have to move this batch somewhere into the pond. We need the state permit to do that, to put them in the pond. We need the monitoring program started, and Sia can talk a little more. I'm not up to speed on the procurement of the consultant.
Yeah, I can address that because it's
Yeah, okay.
very recent. We had it was put out, advertised, and got 3 responses, and all of them are for more money than we had originally anticipated. The $30,000 was a low number, not because of our numbers being inherently low, but because things were added to the mix. The Conservation Commission had additional requirements. A bunch of things got added to the mix that make it more expensive. So nobody came in at 30,000. So we got to address the financial piece of this, after they've had time to consult with these different folks and get a sense of who can do what and for how much. But the numbers are all going to be higher than we had originally thought. But it had to be done. So here we are.
And I think we have money someplace within Article 17.
Yeah, we'll find a way to.
Yeah, we'll have to work it
Yeah.
out. Work it out. I think I'm not. Yeah. Anyway, so those are points, and we can't. The Conservation Commission has indicated that they really want the monitoring started before we do anything in Mill
Yeah.
Pond.
Right.
So this is part of where we are. But we're
Right.
within. If it's all settled within 2 weeks, I think we're in good shape. Okay, so
That's a reasonable time frame.
that would be fine. I mean, as long as they, well, I would say 10 days, because then they got to be ready to jump in the water the day that they
Yeah.
sign the contract.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it's being made clear to all these 3
Okay.
potential
Urgency.
participants here that
They got it.
timing is everything.
Okay.
And there's some conditions on, timing, delivery,
Yeah,
starting work immediately.
yeah.
See,
Sia, could you describe the work that these people are doing down there at the?
The shellfish bag assembly?
You've got prisoners down there doing things. You've got all kinds of things.
Yeah,
Tell the world.
I think this would be a great thing to interview Chuck Martinson, because
Okay.
it's really the Department of Marine and Environmental Services that our demonstration project is one of a number of significant projects that are making amazing projects. Every time you go down there, you see that up, we contributed, so there's a propagation center being built. One of the upwellers is for the aquaculture demonstration project, and the other 4 are to promote shellfish in the town of Falmouth. So there's a huge initiative that's being accomplished with that, and we get to be part of it with our demonstration project. And they are pulling wire, and they're going to be operational in time for their seed. So, and that's great, which means we can keep using the one at McDougal's for our seed. So it's all coming together.
You mentioned an interview. It seems to me it's a made-for-TV sort of thing. Right? It's very visual.
Well,
That's a good point.
well, I have contacted Jeff at FCTV
Good.
with the eye to doing a documentary of the Shellfish Project, because in an effort to replicate this to other towns so they could do what we do, now that I've seen bag assembly, I know exactly what goes into bag assembly, and it's very important to actually know what goes into bag assembly so that you can do a project like this. So I thought documenting it visually, I mean, you can write a tech memo and sit on a shelf where you can put together a 15-minute video. And so I've talked to Chuck Martinson, and he thought it was a good idea, but we just need to get together, kind of scope out what we'd want to see. But to have it be a sort of an educational, informative video about the Shellfish Project and PR.
Right. There will be a piece coming out shortly on the bag assembly thing for the paper. It's not ready yet, but by next week, we expect to have, following up on the seed arrival, then it'll be the bag assembly, and then it'll be, putting them in the pond, and so that we're constantly moving information in. And there'll be another piece on the upweller center, the seed center, and that'll be coming as well within all of this. And so it's interesting. There's a huge expansion in Falmouth with shellfish suddenly. That were our 2 separate tracks, and the selectmen put strong support behind getting more cohogs and things out there, which helps with, again, not just the commercial and the recreational side, but the water quality side, because they'll be growing out there. So that's been so things are moving well. We're more or less on schedule, but we're it's a huge undertaking to start at this scale.
Yeah.
And that's why it's moving. So all of you are, again, welcome. Just to stop by, spend an hour. It's easily, I've been trained 3 times to do the same thing, and I seem to be able to learn every time. No, but there are lots of different little tasks. It's not heavy lifting at all. It's just, and it's a great atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's a nice set, and people are telling stories, and whatever.
This is down at the Harbor Master's area, down in Falmouth Harbor now?
Right. It's just to the
At the
north
boat
of the
landing.
Harbor
At the boat
Master's
landing.
office. There's a little kind of enclosure there, and it's going on in there.
Great.
And one of the things that we've noticed is the people are telling other people about the opportunity to volunteer, and so we're getting this sort of beginnings of exponential growth on everybody tells 2 friends, and we get
Terrific.
some people and
The Mark Twain effect is that.
and some, exactly. And some
Right.
thought is being given to formalize a volunteer corps for the shellfish.
Yeah.
And really create an organization, kind of like the Friends of Falmouth Dogs or something like that, that could support, not...
Friends of Falmouth Cohogs.
Oysters.
Oysters.
FFQ&O, FFOQ. So that's another thing that
Folksy,
we've been
I
talking
can't
about.
acronym, folksy.
Fofo.
Huh?
Friends
No,
of
it's a very folksy project. Falmouth
And there are
Oysters.
models from, Martha's Vineyard has such a group, and
Yeah.
Barnstable County, and so that's another,
Great.
you can never
So-
have too many hands when you're working with shellfish.
Well,
Right.
When you're trying to assemble 3,000 bags.
Right, so you have 1,000 down and 2,000 to go.
Well, it's
so-
more like 4,000 bags, it's 3,800 and change, so
Wow.
call it 4.
Okay.
So more volunteers are needed. And
Contact me, I'll,
welcome for our nationwide TV audience
Yes.
to come on down.
come on
Well,
down.
yeah, it'll basically all be done by the end of July. Is when we.
Okay.
5 more weeks,
Yeah,
Terrific.
Right.
come one, come all.
All right, any other comments or questions on the highly successful aquaculture demonstration project?
No, it's smooth.
Uh,
One other
yeah.
thing, the seed has been sent, we're now at a critical threshold. The seed has been sent out for disease testing
yeah.
again. Okay, it was tested before
Mhm.
it was
Mhm.
sent to us, before we picked it up, and that's now from the harbor because we move it to another water body, so it has to be
Mhm.
be clean. So Falmouth Harbor will hopefully be proved to be fine. But there haven't been any problems in the past there, so.
Good.
We will know a week, probably Wednesday next week, because I have about 10 days that went out last Friday,
Terrific.
is that one? Yeah, I think Friday's
It's
or
been-
Monday.
Yeah.
All right, report on the Webner conference. It was a 2-day conference last week that Ron and Sia and Jerry and Wynn all went to. Anything you can tell us
They
about
can
that?
start, I just vote.
You were there? You were there? Whoever wants to.
2 things. I learned a great deal of all sorts of different things, but especially about climate change, especially about sea level rise in Falmouth. There was a series of excellent presentations starting from 30,000 feet up and going right down to Falmouth storm problems, each one of which built on the other, to show, first of all, why it was that Falmouth is in the center of a place where sea level rise will be greater than it is in other parts of the world. I won't try to reproduce it. I didn't understand all of the mathematics that they were dealing with, but I got a good overview. Down to the question of what this means for the whole coastline, what it means for Falmouth in particular, what we can be doing now, and what the storm would look like when it comes. Those were very important things to learn about. I think when they get those presentations, we might want to all take a look at that. It took an hour or so, hour and a half or so, to do that one. So that was one thing that stood out as the big thing. The other thing, I did a good deal of networking at the conference and picked up several places and people who were engaged in working on things having to do with eco-toilets or things like that in other parts of the Cape already. And so I've got some people to contact, one in Sandwich and there's some other places. And met some people who were interested in the project, I got the impression that that was a group which is waiting for us to do our work. in the eco-toilet project. That we don't need to keep advertising the fact that we're doing it. They know about it. Those people know about it already.
Good.
To a great extent. And a lot of them are saying, yes, we're waiting for you. We want you.
Yeah.
We want to get your figures.
But they chip in some money.
We have,
Somebody
times.
pitched several times that if anybody wanted to get in on our projects, they could ante up, and we would be happy to
Yeah,
tailor findings to their particular needs.
right.
Anybody step forward?
Not yet.
Not yet. But we're going to keep on working on it. Even if they don't pony up money, they could make their own. There's some projects going on. There's one in Sandwich, for example. There's another down in, I think it's Eastham, if I remember correctly. And there's certainly one in Wellfleet, where they are planning to install eco-toilets in public places.
Yeah.
And that, one or two of them could be used in our project, possibly. So that's one thing.
Okay.
There was one other thing. What was it? There was a section in the middle of the day which gave me much better insight into what 208 is all about. What it was originally and what they're trying to do with it now. It gave me much better insight of what it is. I don't know, I just didn't understand and maybe everybody here knows perfectly well what it's all about.
I doubt it.
I doubt it.
So that might be something that would be worth looking at.
Right.
There were two presentations which explained in some detail what was going on and why it was going on. So that's what I
Okay,
learned.
great. Ron? Yeah, Ron gave a presentation on our shellfish project.
Right. And there was Diane Murphy and Josh Reitzma from the County Extension Service gave a talk as well. And they're doing some really interesting work that's very complementary to what we're doing. And they're looking at various species of shellfish, particularly quahogs and oysters, and looking at the nitrogen that's in them from growing. So that is a very nice element. They're not doing so much with the water quality assessment. And so they've got that preliminary data. And so they're getting to the point now where they say, well, if you put in 1 acre or whatever it is, 1 acre of oysters, you can expect to get so many pounds of nitrogen assimilated into growth. So that is something that's very nice to see. And I wasn't aware of the extent to which that program has been going on, but they're very, very much involved. It was very, very good to hear that. And Rick York gave his talk that we've heard before to some extent about the progress and plans in Mashpee and how the results they've been getting with the oysters. The talk I gave was basically our talk, okay, that we prepared for, to some extent, for the Conservation Commission with some additions to it. But what came out of it was that one good thing was that I was approached afterwards by Kristen Marshall from AmeriCorps offering volunteers to help with putting the system together and managing it.
For this year?
That was one thing, yeah. And the second thing was that Tuesday night I gave a talk to the Rotary Club at one of their monthly dinners, and so I was invited to do that. So I gave a talk on more or less the overall program. But Don Hoffer, who's one of the members, wanted me to focus on the aquaculture because he came to the aquaculture talk. I just sort of put it in the framework of everything without the PowerPoint, so it was just a after dinner chat, and it was nice. I think that that was. I think that's the kind of thing that would be good to do on all topics. If there are groups in town that want to hear from us, then I think it's really great to raise awareness of this overall thing. I got questions about the oyster pond CWMP and some ideas they had. Some of the people who live there had some thoughts about how to go with it. So it was.
That's a very nice segue into the next item on the agenda, which is the Oyster Pond CWMP.
Oh.
Well, that was all a tough act to follow with something very boring.
Well, he may have something to offer on the Oyster Pond CWMP as well.
Please. The contractor is proceeding with analysis and documentation and expects to have a report soon. which we think is a couple weeks. And Diane Davidson expects the mailing at the end of this week.
Okay, terrific.
I'm braced for an onslaught of constant contact,
All right.
activity.
Have you gotten any yet?
Nothing.
Well, the mailing hasn't gone out yet.
No, but the
Nothing
button
from
is
Hong
live.
Kong.
You could have discovered it on the web.
Oh, I see. Oh.
Well,
Nope.
apparently no one has. What did the Rotary have to say about oyster ponds?
Well, a couple things. One was that one fellow had a viewpoint that they've got lots of space there, and they could probably handle the problem within the complex there. It was just his thinking, and I said, well, that's a possibility. There's a lot of things being thought about
Sure.
even hooking up to the central system. There are all kinds of range of things that could happen, but we want to have interaction, feedback, and this is kind of part of the process. And also, Bill Kerfoot was there. I guess he's a member, and he was very interested in the whole view because he's sort of a ecosystem engineer. I mean, he worked heavily with the oyster pond, with OPET, with the Oyster Pond Environmental Trust, in recovering oyster ponds.
Sure.
So that was good. But that was pretty much the idea. But people are on the alternatives. I think it's going to be we have to keep putting the word out. But but there's a lot of interest. That's for sure. So it was good.
Good.
Mr. Chairman? Just to refine what Wynn had said, that we expect climate change, we're definitely going to get warmer over the next few years. Sea level rise, the United States, the East Coast, will probably be will be impacted greater than other parts of the world. However, the southern coast of the United States will probably have a higher sea level rise than we will. It's not quite the bathtub effect because of the way it circulates. Some parts of the south are subsiding. It's complex but easy to model, and a number of people have done that modeling. There's new FEMA maps coming out. One of the issues is FEMA maps look backwards. We're going to have a new sea level insurance plan and things like that. The beauty of doing modeling, if hopefully the planning board and others, is we can project forward to say, what can we expect inundation to be with this type of recurrence level? What can we expect the surge to be? And what can we expect erosion to be? Those are all the things you need to put it together on what climate change and sea level rise means. And as far as 208, it's a number in the statute. It's a regional wastewater plan. And they kept on saying they will take our information, and ours is fairly well along, all the towns, and factor it in. I mean, we'll be done before they get off the ground on the regional plan.
Right. Yeah, and in real life, we are our own little region.
Yes.
We have 15 estuaries, and 13 of them are wholly owned by us. So we're just fine as a region. Speaking of which, we had a meeting with the sandwich people. Part of the CWMP process is to talk to your neighbors, and we did have a meeting with the sandwich neighbor and concluded that we had very little in common. Our only point of interaction is going to be the Wacoit Bay area, because in theory at least, some input into the Wacoit Bay system is from Sandwich, and a good deal more is from us. So we agreed to keep in touch on that. And the possible use of different things at MMR is something that they are looking at and we're looking at in the long term. But the immediate future does not require too much more interaction with Sandwich.
And they'll reach out to us in September, because they'll have their plan more solidied, or that's when they'll do their outreach.
That's good.
And we did on regionalization, Paul, who's been coming from the Mashpee, had a conflict tonight, but he actually wanted me to extend that he'd be back, but he just had a conflict with his sewer commission tonight, but he's going to plan to be a regular attendee.
Oh, that's very good.
Okay.
Good.
Other reports of members and staff?
Yes.
I have two quick ones.
Okay.
The letter that we talked about at the last meeting to the Mass Highway has been drafted and sent. In the interest of saving the Glynn Law Office paper, I only made one copy, but we can certainly pass it around.
Okay. Has it been sent to the CC people, or does CN need to take care of that?
No, I'll take care of it.
You'll take care of it. Okay.
I just have something of interest you, I think, although it's very preliminary. I did talk to the Agricultural Committee in Westport, and as some of you may know, there's still a lot of farms out there, and they use a lot of fertilizer. They use a lot of cow manure on hay fields even to grow grass for cows and cattle. Anyway, I talked to them about the possibility of doing a demonstration project with urine. And I was expecting a real sort of a negative, but they were extremely positive and thought it was a good idea to.
Have they been following Abe's thing in New Hampshire?
I put them onto that, and I talked about that project. Abe, Noah Hayes has a project up in Brattleboro, Vermont, where he's putting, I guess it's 3 to 1, 1 part urine to 3 parts water on hay fields, and he's getting a great growth, 6 times, I think.
He wants 3,000 gallons of urine this summer.
Yeah, he's
having trouble getting enough.
And their DEP has certified it, and or they're monitoring it, and they've permitted it. So anyway, it was a good response in Westport, and we may have a demand for our urine.
Yeah.
Just one more thing. Today, Steve Rafferty, Sia, and I met with the USGS and Betsy Gladfelter, chair of the Conservation Commission, to discuss the monitoring plan for the shellfish and how they may be interested. So it's really kind of a brainstorming and bringing them up to speed on what we're doing, and they were quite interested. It's unclear at the moment exactly where it will go, but they was more looking at engaging them potentially in data analysis and review of things that they may be interested in doing. And they had an intern there who might also get involved. At this point, it's very, very preliminary.
Okay.
Good.
I have a column that was in the Cape Cod Times last week telling the world what a terrific bylaw regarding fertilizer the town of Falmouth put together, and how the evil lawn care industry has been trying to thwart it. This is from this Rob Moore, who's the executive director of the Ocean River Institute in Cambridge, who you actually were the first one to get in contact with them. They gathered 7,000 signatures in a petition to the Attorney General to support our bylaw.
Our bylaw?
Yeah, yeah. And of course the Attorney General was not moved.
But 5 carbon copy letters from...
But the state Senate may well have been moved, because they put it in the state Senate version of the budget that any town that had a bylaw in place prior to a certain time, their bylaw stands, notwithstanding the general law. So we'll see how that goes.
What was the objection from the Attorney General about our bylaw?
Their basic premise was that the state statute that was passed in August 2012, as they read it, preempted any local bylaw dealing with nitrogen reduction. This in spite of a fairly compelling argument that we all made that law had almost nothing to do with nitrogen, and it certainly did not intend, the people who participated in drawing it up said that it didn't intend to have that consequence. But the Attorney General had to go by what they read, and what they read, they concluded, meant that the Department of Agriculture had
so there is a legislative fix?
Primacy. It's in the state Senate budget. We'll hope the House agrees to it and the governor doesn't veto it, or if he does, that they override it. But there is a fix in progress. Yes.
Great.
The Cape Cod Commission also, in that state statute, there was a piece that allowed for the commission to promulgate its own regulations by a certain date, and they are working those up, and we'll have them done by that certain date. And hopefully they will be useful to the other Cape towns that want to do this. And if our legislative fix doesn't work, maybe they'll be useful for us. But I have great hopes for our legislative fix.
I just had a crazy idea for the Eco Toilet Task Force. I just realized, I've never heard anybody mention this before, there's already a huge commercial industry in a form of urine diverting toilets.
Yes.
Porta potties.
I've been,
And urinals in men's rooms. And the Falmouth Road Race is coming up. And it wouldn't take a whole lot of retrofit
yeah.
to collect that.
I've been mentioning that to a number of people for the last 2 years, and everyone has said, nonsense, it won't work.
It might be hard to get volunteers for that.
But I think that it would. I think
Porta
that we,
potties.
yeah.
Yeah,
But they don't
it
separate.
goes in, it doesn't.
No,
go
well,
in-
that's the retrofit.
Okay.
Some
Right.
vinyl tubing and bottles.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And who collects it after that?
Yeah. It's yes, it could be done. It's on our radar, but and as a matter of fact, I was telling Sia today that one of the things I'm going to be writing up little notes about things like that would be quick fixes, low-hanging fruit. Would be.
What's interesting in Vermont is it's all volunteers supplying the urine, and
Yeah.
they don't have urine diverting toilets. They're just filling up jugs and things,
Yeah.
bringing them in.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Why not?
they're very enthusiastic.
Well,
I had.
be my guest. Yeah.
Two things. One is to refer back to the Section 208 planning that the county is doing. It was to update that plan from the late 1970s that they received the over $3 million from the state, along with a scope of work which was very aggressive. And so in this first year, they are planning a series of public workshops throughout all of the watersheds of the Cape. And they will be rolling this out in July to be followed up by more specific sub-watershed workshops, talking to what they call all the stakeholders. And within a year, they hope to have a plan for all of the watersheds of the Cape. Part of the structure for this was to set up an advisory committee, and they asked if I would serve on that advisory committee. So I had my first meeting this month, and it'll meet every month to do that.
Virginia, a question came up at the conference about those 14 or however many. Are they going to set it up so that basically it's just stakeholders come as they choose, or are they going to set it up so that there are certain people invited to come?
Well, it's interesting you should raise that point, because they said, to the advisory committee, we want you to critique us. And so that's one of the things I said. How are you going to reach out to all of the stakeholders? And how are you going to give them time to say what it is they want to say?
Yeah.
So I just put it on their plate that they recognize that.
I'm glad you did, because that has not been their strong point.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And then the second thing I want to say is just I'm working on the pre-draft of the CWMP. And what I expect, our next meeting will be the 11th of July. I expect, at least this is our target, that you will have the document at that time, and then it will be on the 18th as an agenda item. So you'll have a week to review it.
The whole CWMP.
The whole CWMP. Portions of it, Sia is helping me when reaching out, and aquaculture, and John would like to talk to you about the outfall section. So there are portions of it which we are actually writing, and then there are portions that the engineers are writing.
This is an enormous piece of work, and you have no idea how much work this woman and now these others are doing to make this thing happen. I think we all were disappointed in the first version that came out in terms of how it flowed and a number of other issues. And the second version is going to be immeasurably better.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be quite amazingly good.
Right, yeah.
It'll be the actual plan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
To the best of our ability.
And you don't have to go to page 17 to find out what it is.
Well, wait, there are a few appendages still, but it will flow much more clearly, and it is more concise. And I think that the areas that need to have a full explanation are going to be given the pages to do that.
The other piece of it is that there's so much has been done since in a year.
That's right.
It's remarkable as I'm, writing up some of these sections. There's so much to say that it really gives it gives teeth to demonstrations, because it's not that we're just talking about them. We're really implementing them, and so that's
a lot of changes in tense.
Yes.
Will
Yes.
to
Have.
All right, that's very significant.
Yep.
I wanted to ask Virginia, is the executive summary which we approved at the last meeting, or which we voted on at the last meeting, is that now a public document that can be, is it available? In its,
I would think the answer would be yes. It's still going to be sort of a pre-draft in the sense that there may be some, as we get through the body, we realize we needed another sentence or two in the executive summary, so there's that sort of. But structurally, I think the executive summary is a pretty clear statement of what we're doing and how we're doing it. And we voted at a meeting, so technically it's a public document.
so it could be available to people who wanted to look at it?
I think so, just so long as it's clearly labeled, it's still draft.
Do we have a document now that's been edited so that it could be, with all the changes we made?
edits.
Nate, that's right. He still has some red lines in it. We will be able to get you that.
Next week.
Yeah.
Next week.
Right.
We should release it as a matter of courtesy to the selectmen.
Yes.
At the same time, we release it to the public.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
Right.
the executive.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
I just think it's a very important document to get
Yeah.
out there as soon as we can, and
Okay.
let people take a look at it.
I think that's a good point.
Any other reports of members and staff? Okay, we'll move on to review and vote on the minutes of prior meetings. Before the adjournment vote, I
June
have
6th.
something to do here, but let's get the review and the vote in the minutes of prior meetings. Everybody had emailed to them the detailed minutes of the
June
last
6th.
meeting, June 6th meeting. Everyone's had a chance to review them carefully. Any additions or corrections to be offered? If not, a motion to accept them as presented would be in order.
I move.
Moved,
Second.
seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Before adjournment, I think I want to say something about Steve Rafferty, who is not with us here, and it would have been his last meeting if he were. One reason he's not here is because his job has been taking him away, and his job right now is taking him away from 5 o'clock at night till 6 o'clock in the morning, where he is supervising the digging of a tunnel in downtown Boston for the company he works for. So he has not been here today in the evening, but he is here during the day, and he has promised to keep his hand in, which I think is going to be extremely useful for all of us. He has been a font of useful information. If we had to pay for what we've gotten out of him, we would have to have doubled our budget. Just everything that came along, his advice has been extremely useful and wise and thoughtful, and if anyone else wants to chime in on that thought, I would be glad to have it. And when we're through chiming in, I'd like to give him a standing ovation, even if he isn't here. So, any other comments on Steve before we give him his standing O?
I just want to say that what I'm most amazed about, I mean, it's just his wonderful manner, but
Do you have a microphone on?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, okay.
His wonderful manner, but also that his facility to move from topic to topic, and he gets into things and really he's able to analyze and understand, and he's one of the fastest learners I've ever met in terms of topics. So it's really been not just bringing his experience, lifetime of experience and technical knowledge, but also grabbing new things, putting them together, and being on it. So I was very impressed with with that, that aspect, and his patience with me at times.
Yeah, Matt.
I'll second both of those comments, but what impressed me too is that he was willing to admit that he was wrong in some cases and learn from others. So I thought that was, coming from an engineer, that's unusual.
Yeah, absolutely right. Okay.
All
Are
right.
we ready for a
All
standing
right.
ovation for Steve?
Yep, hooray.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
So
Second.
Second.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
We adjourn.